Good morning, everyone. Anthony Tharp. It's 8:24 a.m. March 7, 2023. Getting an early start on the day. I have a couple long distance run to make. Can't make it back to the beach today. I'm all the way in the south of Florida, and I'll be seeing my therapist today. My therapist is I-95, Interstate 95. I tend to do a lot of driving when I want to relax as well. Going to the beach, relaxing. Driving tends to do that for me as well. So I'll be on I-95, so I'm looking forward to meeting my therapist today. All right, so I'm here again, and my main focus is to empower the people of Jamaica and the planet, if I can influence them or develop enough people to create influence so that we have a change in how we deal with issues like corruption, which leads to crimes, which leads to the degradation of our communities, and in fact the destroyer of civilizations. That's if you go all the way back into history and our story, from the beginning to now, it has always been corruption, the chief advocate of messing up a country, messing up a people, destroying families, corruption. And my attitude, as I said, is to move our civilization forward by being proactive, acting on logical, objective solutions to solving this long-standing problem. If the planet or the world is to survive and avoid long-term wars, as we are seeing in Ukraine and other parts of the world, Africa, all over Africa, Mexico, all those places, they have wars going on. So in South America, and even here in the US, depending on how you define war and exactly what you're looking at, you have bodies piling up all over the planet. And maybe this is some illegitimate strategy by those in control of the planet right now to minimize or reduce the amount of population that's on Earth and growing rapidly. And if we don't come up with practical solutions to develop resources to cater to all the people that we have on the planet, then we're going to have serious issues down the road. Now, killing off people is not a solution. I think the whole idea behind creation and humanity and the growth of humanity and human civilization is that we would use our intellect to develop strategies to deal with growth, because we need it. We need the numbers, believe it or not. And we have the intellect and the intelligence and the technology to fix the issues and make sure our people on the planet are sustainable. What I don't want to see is where only a certain sector of the population on the planet remains in control at the behest or the risk to other civilizations, and in fact genocide, which is pretty much what's going on. If you look at what's happening in the world right now, in practically every part of the world where you have major civil wars going on, then it has to do with a population that's quote unquote undesired by certain people, and in some places they claim it's a minority. But if you look at the global population, certainly people of color aren't in the minority. That's just intellectual warfare to make us feel like we're less than everybody else, and therefore we should take our position, our place in which they want to keep us. We have to be above that, and we have to start asserting ourselves. As I've indicated in several of my videos to you, is that we're not catching on the planet. We belong here. We're part of this whole mystery of the universe and creation, and where we have to go with humanity. We're part and parcel of it. And even if we become a recycled species, meaning if when we pass after a certain point we return, or we return into somebody else's form, then it's part of the mystery to find out what's going on. And if you're a creationist, then you know that certainly our objective long term is to head into outer space. Some people call it heaven, working towards going to heaven. And Jesus Christ said, you can't come with me where I'm going right now, but I'm going to prepare a place in my Father's house or mansion. I think it goes something like that. Don't hold me to it, because a lot of the times, as I said, I make statements which go somewhat like it, but it's not exactly as it is. So I've always said to you, check yourself, check out this stuff. When I say check it, because my presentations is not necessarily based on accurate, 100% accurate data. It's data that exists, and my objective is to get you to think about the same things I'm thinking about. And some of the things might be exaggerated. For example, a correction, I think I stated yesterday that there were some changes in building codes in the Miami area, and there have been, in terms of compensating and dealing with increase in ocean flooding, which is taking place as we speak. And I mentioned that I know new buildings are going up sometimes 30 feet. I don't think it's that high. But I said it to get you to realize how critical and dire our situation is. And the other thing I'm working to pull your attention to is that brain of yours, that they say we use less than a third of our brains. The other 2/3 is certainly not wasted material. Like I was reading some science magazine or some video where they said 90%, and again, don't quote me on the number, you could do the research. But let me just say 1/3. They claim 1/3 of our DNA or genetic makeup is junk. Now, they've been teaching us a lot of nonsense throughout history, and some people come up with some really, really nonsense argument, which makes no sense. It's illogical, it makes no sense. And they're going to try to say to us in the science community, and I don't know if everybody accepts it, not everybody would, but to come out and say that 2/3 of our DNA or genetic makeup is junk DNA, when you have admitted that you don't know half of what's going on with the human body or the human psyche. Now, I don't know any part of the human body that's junk. Every part has a function. We might be able to figure it out yet, and we do have the answers, but certainly your brain, none of it is junk. All of it has a vital role to play in our survival as human beings. And I've always observed on my own that whenever we see things that we desire or need or want as a species, somehow from some place here comes somebody who develops the functional utility that we need. And I'll go back to cell phones, you name it, recording, tapes, radio. We need all these things to communicate. We saw it in the movies, and voila, then somebody comes up and creates the thing. That's because it's already buried in our brains. We're programmed. That's why I say, like birds, they hatch from an egg, and if you put them in an incubator and they never met their parents, then when they get up, they still can fly because it's part of their makeup, their DNA. And they can turn around and go raise their own broods of nestlings, and as if, they were trained. And in fact, we are trained. So this whole nonsense about our brain, a part of it being junk, is our DNA is being junk, is all nonsense. We just need to find out how we can tap into that section of our brain, and when the time comes, that stored part of our genetic makeup, our DNA, will certainly help humanity to move forward. The gist of the argument is you, your children, your parents, your grandparents, all had a role to play in you being here. And you have a role, a critical role, an important role to make sure that humanity progresses, and that you have the important role and responsible role to ensure that your families take advantage of every opportunity on the planet and outside the planet to ensure that we survive, your family, your genes survive as a critical part of our makeup, because we need that interchanging of genetic material to ensure that we don't end up as a species that has nowhere to go because of unnecessary inbreeding. So anyway, that's it. I mentioned yesterday that we were going to go forward on dealing with our projects and moving forward while still fighting these issues of corruption. And my philosophy there is that if we aggressively throw investments and development that's good for our communities, our people, and ultimately the planet, and we aggressively pursue that, we'll be able to put ourselves in a position where we can now take control of those people, that small minority of people who are always feeding the machinery of corruption. We can't do it if we just doing a lot of talking and no action. As it all works, is it all work or no? What's it? You research it. Nothing is achievable if we just talk about it and do nothing about it. So my objective is to reach out to you, and I've been reaching out to say, contact other people, meet other people, form communities. And when I say communities, I mean a group, a working group of people who share the ideas. Let's network, let's empower ourselves, let's work towards a better world for ourselves personally. Because if you're not benefiting from what's going on in the world in terms of your quality of life, then you'll have no desire to make life better. So I'm saying, let's get together, let's work together, let's create a world that we want to live in. And so one of the strategies for that is for us to engage in actually playing a major role or a pointed role in making sure we have the developments that we need to advance ourselves as a people. So you see a lot of persons, they focus on technology because technology is critical. We should be in a position where we can direct our children and our future generations to have technology so embedded in their DNA that it's like drinking water. And it's that easy. We just have to change how we approach life. So the thing here is that these people who are there causing us to go through all of this wasted energy. You waste a lot of energy going through this. Imagine from 2010 until now, projects that we started in 2005 are still sitting around on the table because of these corrupt people. And it's baffling somewhat to figure out why would people target people, other people, to destroy them. And it's just this bad part of our DNA that, again, socialization will fix. But we have to aggressively tackle it. If we don't, then it's not going to happen. So, going back to the project we're talking about yesterday, that we're going to launch the project. We're going to focus on doing high rises, skyscrapers, bringing mega structures into Jamaica to put Jamaica at another level or plane of development. And out of that, we can create the jobs, the employment opportunities to ensure that we remove or erase the rising crime that's going on. If we, as a conscious move on our part, create the opportunities for people to be empowered without thinking of nefarious activities to generate income, then what we are going to have is a people that's driven to maintain a high standard of living without creating it that through crimes, destroying communities, threatening your neighbors, destroying families. And so, again, the projects are important, and I'm inviting everybody that hears these video, especially the transition that we are working towards, moving from just a straight focus on exposure, because there's only so much you could do in terms of exposure anyway. Once we present the facts and the data about the corruption that's going on, the next move is for us to take the next step into creating a mechanism to deal with the corruption. Because just talking about it and highlighting the effects of negative, outcomes of corruption and crime and people being damaged and hurt and communities and the nation's economy being destroyed, just talking is going to create mass depression. And of course, mass depression probably leads to crime. Again, are people willing to sit around and be exploited? So the transition is from just focusing on corruption, working in the solutions, and then moving ourselves forward as a nation and a people. And I'm inclusive of everybody on the planet. However, my main focus now is a starting point. We have the means to make a difference in the world, and that's what we should aim for. So we're moving now from the mere exposure of the corruption, and we've pointed it out to people and provided factual data, verifiable data, that it does exist, it's real. It's not made up, it's not because I'm angry or because it's political issues. That there's no politics here. Corruption is real. It feeds other criminal activity and ultimately leads to the destruction of a civilized community. We're transitioning from that into the mode of finding solutions through organizations and other strategy. And one of those other strategies that we need to employ is the creation of economic opportunity and empowerment for as many people as we can. In fact, we should structure our economic advancement so that we don't leave anybody behind, because leaving people behind results in people creating underground economies, committing all kind of crimes, starting a culture of crime, because then the whole deception of or desire to be empowered but don't have the means. You look at other people working towards their success and seemingly achieving it as targets for your own demise. So now the construction projects that we started, the one, the Finian on the Ridge, which is the one we talked about yesterday, the towers, the 3-tower hotel condominium that we aim to build 125 stories. And I said, if they dare us, we push it to 150. But right now our plan is for 125. And it's a 5,080 room facility, hotel condominium. We have high-end facilities, and one of the towers dedicated to people who just want to live and reside and don't necessarily want to engage in the tourism market. Other towers are structured so that if you want to subcontract them to guests, short-term guests, you can. And you are able to maintain the units through your own management company or through a management company for the entire hotel. There are homeowners or resident owners association documents that have been drawn up, prepared and ready. And they're drawn up in such a way that it offers you the greatest protection. For one thing, one of the things I highlight in some of those homeowners association docs or document is that if you are involved or engaged in illegal activity that threatens the livelihood or standard of living of anybody else that lives, owns property in the complex or throughout the development, then mandatorily you have to go. We'll cash you out for the unit, pay for the unit, or put it on the market, give you your money and tell you to go. Because the whole idea is you can't be out there committing all kind of atrocities and then come live amongst decent people and think it's okay. The people who live or use our facilities must understand that when you have somebody living in that facility, especially a mixed-use condominium, we are responsible for each other. And if you have a niece, a nephew, a child a young child, a teenager, a young adult, we want to make sure they're safe while they're on or within our complexes. So we have put into the Homeowners Association documents strict rules that mandate if you're not doing the right thing, then you have to go. We're not going to take your money, we're not going to sue you and tell you can't. No, it's mandatory. We don't have to wait on a vote. Nobody has to vote, because when you sign those documents, it means that you have locked into a decision that's already made. Now, the good thing about that is you can't say you were surprised or we changed the rules as we went along. You have to read those association documents, and you have to tell us that you understand them to a T. And we don't want to hear, that's one of the things I've always done with my business, and you could ask anybody. We don't want to hear that your attorney read it and your attorney understands it or is okay with it. We don't want to hear that. You're not going to sign off or get into any kind of contracts with us if you don't understand. We don't want to hear about your attorney understand. Your attorney can sit down or anybody else and go through the documents and come up with a decision. However, you have to prove to us that you fully understand the terms of the agreement, the Homeowners Association, or the ownership documents for any part of the complex that you're dealing with, whether it's a ground lease, a 40-year lease, or whether it's permanent ownership. But the one key thing I want to highlight to you is that we're so strict on deciding on what we want and who we want within our neighborhood or community, especially where you live, you go home to rest, are people who you don't have to be worried about. We don't want to hear that you have some sex offender living next door because he had the money to buy into the complex, then you can't do anything about it. No, you could be the trillionaires of the planet. If you don't have the right caliber, character, or what's desired by those Homeowners Association documents, then you won't be allowed in. The whole idea, again, is to provide a community where everything is there for our resident members or resident owners or resident tenants. Because, again, we have conference areas, we have common areas that are there for them to enjoy. You can own one of our units in this development, Finian on the Ridge, with the Hummingbird Towers, and you don't have to leave to go anywhere to enjoy your everyday activities. For one thing, it's designed where you have residences up and you have commercial and retail activities down, which means you can live upstairs, take vacations upstairs, and just come on down for your restaurants, your shopping, everything. That's why I said, even though you'll have access to parking spaces, you pretty much won't need those parking spaces, which creates another opportunity for the person who has a condo who has 2 parking spaces reserved. If you're not using it, then that's an income asset, because you could sublease it, you could do a number of things with it and put it in a pool so guests or people can pay you long-term, short-term for that space. So that's generating more income as well. The complexes, all our complexes are designed to provide the same kind of facilities. So whether it's the development that we have in Clarendon, and again, we're waiting on the courts on that one. We believe we'll be successful. If not, then obviously we get more property someplace else and we go build. However, the idea is infusing those standards within all those communities will ensure that you can retire without worrying about having a car, buying insurance, spending unnecessary money on travel and security. But that's the other thing about living in a mixed-use facility like the ones we're creating. We have our own security personnel within the complex, not external, not police, our own resident security personnel. And the reason we want to have that is that being part of the employment structure of the complex, it means you being an owner These persons will know you, they'll get to know you, you can get to know them, there's interaction. It becomes a community where everybody can see and relate to each other. And so we figure that's a safer community to be in. The whole idea, again, behind doing all of these types of mixed-use developments in the initial stage was to ensure that we raise the standard of living for everybody that we came in contact with, and that would influence the standard of living, of all the people on the island. And so by doing that, we're helping to reduce crime. We're creating jobs. The complex at the Hummingbird Towers alone would be generating some 20-something thousand jobs, permanent jobs. And it's easy to see because those residents will have need for either managers for their unit if they're putting it in a pool to rent to tourist short-term, Airbnb type business again. If you're a resident, you're going to need, and you might need the aid of somebody to come in and tidy, those kind of services. We're going to need people for maintenance and upkeep of the general common area facilities, landscape. We need to have security personnel in the stores, with 14 million square feet of commercial space. So there is a lot of opportunity for employment, and which means the more people that are working, the less idle people we have on the streets. It's just logical. If when New York had major issues in terms of employment, high employment, unemployment, then crime was always high. When New York started to grow and opportunities were being created, then you had less unemployment because more people are preoccupied working, and therefore less time for criminal activity or sliding into the underground community. So I believe there's a direct correlation between a higher standard of living and the elimination of crime. And as I pointed out when we started out, that crime is generated by corruption. And if we have people who are employed productively, earning a living wage, living well, doing well, it means they won't have any need to contact or be in association with the corrupt. They won't have to go to spend their money and time to pay somebody to complete a task because they're in a certain position. And therefore now you're feeding corruption and corruption feeding crime. The idea is to bring us a better world, in short. So we have the 125 story tower in Montego Bay. Just outside of Montego Bay, we had a planned community called the Botanica Country Club. Now, we are abandoning the Botanica Country Club, but we are looking for a larger percentage, a larger acreage to do a master community. Because we have it laid out already, so it's just a matter of moving the design and concept onto a larger piece of property. And the reason we want to do that is that development is not going to be in an urban downtown setting. We want it to be in a semi-rural, relatively close to the urban centers without being there, again, to stop the rural-urban migration, overcrowding in the cities. So if we create communities outside the cities, and we're not talking about housing estates like they're doing now. All these persons down there building these massive housing estates and selling houses for between 11 and 18 million, and no facilities in there. They're not designed to be communities or family-friendly communities. What we're doing is taking larger acreages outside the city limits and create what we call smart cities, mixed-use communities, residential communities where people live, work within walking distance of everything they need. In New York, when I was in New York, I remember they interviewed some people who lived in Brooklyn, for example. And some of those people never left the block they lived on. In the same block there was a school, there was all shopping downstairs, and the residents were on top. And they lived there, grew up there, and some of them have never been to Manhattan, as close as Brooklyn is. So the concept I picked up from that was, if people live and work within a community and they're in close contact with the same people all along, it means we have a stronger community, a more vibrant community, or even a richer community, because the more money circulates within a community, the stronger the economy there. So in our smart city concept, that's our objective, to build smart cities all over the island itself, and then looking and measuring the success of these smart cities, then transferring that success from island to island or from continent to continent. Because I'm looking seriously at the fact that we need to also look at developing our rights and the economies of our people, whether in the diaspora or not, in Africa. That's home. That's homeland. That's our place. We can't be denied that. And regardless of all the politics and the division of Africa by these Europeans, the fact is it's embedded in our people, in our DNA. We have a legal, natural right, cultural right to look at Africa as a place, as an investment hub for us. And mutually beneficial relationship is going to help us in the Caribbean, in these islands, even North America. So don't focus only on thinking the plan I'm suggesting is only going to be in the island. The idea is to diversify and allow opportunities. However, at this point, the objective is to make sure that we create an island that's stable, that's safe, that's crime-free, so that we can have the highest quality of life and then duplicate that all over the planet. So, looking forward to moving out of just dealing with criticism of people in terms of their corrupt activity and making changes that we can influence them. Now, we can hire and fire them once we are in a position, economic position to do. Money gives you power. That's just the bottom line. That's why everybody's trying to get as much of it as they can. And until that standard changes, then we're working with it. So if we throw money at the crime, throw money at these criminals by coming up with ideas and strategies how to deal with them, then we can get rid of them. And my main focus is to do that through economic development for the island. I'm inviting you again to not just listen to me, but share, come up with your own ideas and let's discuss it. One person can't do this. In fact, the world and our advancement as a people wasn't based on a one-man concept. My whole belief is that we need everybody who wants to participate to get in there. And even if you don't think you want to, think about the mutually beneficial relationship that could develop and make your life a whole lot better if we work together. So not just talking, let's work together. Let's come up with solutions. Because I hear people and I hear bloggers and they're doing a good job getting the word out and getting messages out that the main press or mainstream media try to cover or bury because they're part of the whole upper echelons of society that wants to control people and their thoughts and how they react. And these bloggers are doing a good job getting the information out, but what do we do with it? And for me, it's extremely depressing when all you can hear about is people being taken out, disappearing, the gangsterism, all of that kind of stuff, gun running, you name it. And you don't hear about the good things. You don't hear about too many good things happening. And why is that? Because we're so preoccupied with the negative things of life that we don't come up with positive things to move forward. So this is our opportunity to create that positive move forward so that we don't just hear negative things, but we have solutions to stop it. We have solutions to make our lives better. So I'm encouraging everybody again to not just listen. Let's not get bored with each other about listening. Please, and again, one of the things I've realized is in working to build up a community, using these platforms is that we need to generate the kind of resources that we can reach more people. And those resources it's not just money. It's about each person that comes, understand the mission, and share with other people. You know, the rhythms that they use on these platforms are measured and by the amount of people who visit the site, look at the videos, and make comments. Click on the like button, and the most important thing is please subscribe and have your friends subscribe. Each time you go there or one of these videos come out, just hit that subscribe button and the like button and share, because the whole idea is that if you truly believe in making a difference, this is a really simple way to do it. This platform, or our channel, my channel, is not about just spilling negative ideas. It's about talking about the negative stuff, the impact it's having, and change it, play a proactive role in changing it. And you can do that simply by subscribing and hitting the like button, and most importantly, share. Let's have a conversation. As I said, this isn't entertainment. This is about empowering you. Everything I'm talking about, if you listen carefully to what I'm saying, if you look at the principles that's involved or buried there, or if they're not so obvious, if you look at them, there's information that you can use to empower yourself, even if you don't get involved with communities. Everything I'm saying to you, if you look at it, don't just think it's wasted stuff, it's idle talk. Look at the information you're getting, apply it, and apply it to your life, your progress, and you'll understand why you have the power to direct your life on the planet, not just in Jamaica. You have the right, the power, the intelligence to move across the planet. And that's one thing I want to impart to everybody. Don't just think about Jamaica and you're living in the US, all right. You're coming to your work and you're paying bills. Come on. Life is more than just working and paying bills. Is that what you think you were brought here to do? Just work, empower other people. You don't have time for self. You don't have time to even sit down and relax. You don't have time to go by the water and watch boats go by, people fishing. You don't have time to sit down and just drink a cup of coffee and people watch. Life is a lot of stuff that's passing by if you don't take control of it. So I'm saying to you, stop thinking about just working and paying bills. You'll always have to pay bills. But what you want to do is be able to pay the bills without having to worry. And the stuff I'm saying on these videos, or encouraging you to do, is it's things that will help you develop. I have partners that I've been working with, or been working together for the last 20, 30 years. And some of our projects are good, some go bad, but that's what partners do. But we have the support. And when you have that support, and you channel your energies towards a positive path, you're going to be successful. So again, please share, hit the like button and subscribe. Help me to grow an organization that's going to be beneficial to the entire planet, and humanity. Because that's our ultimate goal. Why are we here? Why did Jesus Christ leave us on the planet? Why did God put us here? You think he just put us here to walk around and waste time? No, there is a mission. God had a mission, and his mission was to ensure that we survive as a species, we grow, we develop, and most of all, we work towards happiness. When last did anybody even think about what happiness means in their life and what you're working towards? Thank you. Be strong, be safe, hug yourself. Make sure you know if you don't love yourself, then you need to find out what's going on with you and deal with it, because if you can't love yourself, you can't love your brothers, all right, or your sisters, or your children. Have a great one. Looking forward to the next chat.